Hey, welcome back to the YouTube channel for the Renaissance English History Podcast. I am your host, Heather, and I have been podcasting on Tudor England since 2009, making my show the original Tudor History Podcast. Today, we are going to talk about a woman who, I don't know why she doesn't come up more on my podcast, why I haven't done more with her, Katherine Willoughby. So, she makes these kinds of ancillary appearances with Katherine Parr, with Charles Brandon, but I don't think I've ever done a full video or a full episode on her, which is really quite negligent on my part. I mean, if there was like a criminal trial for negligence in Tudor history podcasting, to have gone for 15 years and not done an episode on Katherine Willoughby is really quite something. So we are going to remedy that today. If you like to hear stories about Tudor England and women like Katherine Willoughby and other things related to the 16th century, even into the 17th century, why not hit subscribe so you never miss out on any of the content I put out? All right, let's get right into it. Katherine Willoughby. Actually, I'm going to have a drink of coffee first. Iced coffee because it's super hot. Grab a coffee while you're at it. Let's just chat about this together, okay? Got a drink? You ready? All right, let's go. Katherine Willoughby. So Katherine Willoughby was a remarkable woman of the Tudor period. She's remembered for her resilience, her intelligence, and her influence. The Tudor court in 1540, in the 1540s, was no joke. It was super dangerous. She was a Protestant, very strong Protestant. Somehow she managed to survive and thrive. She then managed to survive under the court of Mary I. Of course, she had to leave. We'll talk about that. But she managed to live a remarkable long life. Her friendship with Katherine Parr, who was the last wife of Henry VIII, is something that's still remembered. They were kind of besties. They're remembered together. There were also actually rumors that she might have been Henry's wife. Henry might have wanted to marry her if it hadn't worked out with Katherine Parr. So she was a remarkable, remarkable woman. Let's get back to her beginnings, though. She was born in 1519 to William Willoughby. He was the 11th William Willoughby de Eresby, and also then Maria de Salinas. So we have heard Maria de Salinas' name. She was a lady in waiting with Catherine of Aragon, who came over to England with Catherine of Aragon, married William, and had Katherine Willoughby. Catherine was their only child, and her father's substantial estate made her one of the wealthiest heiresses in England. So William had estates in Lincolnshire, Norfolk, and Suffolk. Catherine's mother, Maria, had traveled, like I said, to England as part of Catherine of Aragon's entourage. So there were very deep ties to the royal household there as well. Maria de Salinas had remained loyal to Catherine even as Catherine was being put aside, as Catherine was kind of sent into exile when Henry was getting with Anne Boleyn. Maria stayed close to her and continued to, even off to do an episode on her, defy Henry VIII's orders to stay away from Catherine. She kept visiting Catherine and kind of defying what Henry had ordered with that as well. So she was also a very strong woman who wasn't going to be told what to do. And that then is reflected in her daughter. So Catherine's father died tragically in 1526. She was only 7. This was her first major challenge. She became the subject of an inheritance dispute with her uncle, Sir Christopher Willoughby, who contested her right to inherit her father's estates because she was a woman, a girl. Her mother, Maria, fought vigorously to secure Catherine's inheritance, engaged in lawsuits with both the Chancery and the Star Chamber. And this battle, of course, highlighted for women, especially the precarious position of heiresses in Tudor England. It was amazingly powerful to have all of this money, afforded you a lot of luxuries, but it could be taken away and people could challenge it. You needed to have guardians to protect your rights, and that was especially true for women and for even heirs who were minors. People would try to get in and take it, but especially women and girls had to deal with that. So Catherine's wardship was actually purchased by Charles Brandon, Duke of Suffolk, who was, of course, Henry VIII's bestie. Charles Brandon then was married to Henry VIII's sister at that point, Mary, and he initially had intended Catherine to marry his son, Henry the Earl of Lincoln. But then Charles Brandon's wife died. Mary Tudor died. And Brandon saw an opportunity for himself to get that money of Katherine Willoughby's and marry her himself. So she was originally betrothed, or meant to be betrothed, to Charles Brandon's son. And then Mary Tudor died, and Charles Brandon said, well, I'll get in there and I will get that money myself. So Katherine was just 14 years old when they got married. Charles Brandon was nearly 50 at this point. But the marriage wasn't necessarily all bad for Katherine Willoughby. It was a significant step up for her in terms of rank. It was also going to protect her inheritance. And it was also a strategic alliance for Brandon, who secured her considerable inheritance. Despite the very, very significant age gap and the potential for scandal, the marriage actually proved to be a very interesting and successful partnership, both personally and politically. Katherine's marriage to Charles Brandon brought her to the heart of the Tudor court. She was now the wife of the king's close friend and ally, and she was frequently in the presence of Henry VIII and his court. Katherine quickly adapted to the complexities of court life, navigating all of the politics, alliances, and rivalries with remarkable skill. She was initially raised, of course, as the daughter of Maria de Salinas as a very devout Catholic, but her religious views began to shift towards Protestantism. This transformation was influenced by the growing reformist ideas at court and her own personal experiences. The Reformation was gaining momentum, and Katherine found herself increasingly aligned with the new religious thinking. Her marriage to Charles Brandon was reportedly a very happy one. They had two sons, Henry and Charles, who were born in 1535 and 1537, respectively. As the Duchess of Suffolk, she had a very significant role at court. She attended all of the events. She was a regular at royal celebrations and ceremonies. Her beauty, intelligence, and wit made her a remarkable, prominent, and admired figure. Despite the age difference, like I said, her marriage to Brandon was characterized with mutual respect. They really seemed to have a partnership that Charles Brandon hadn't had with Mary Tudor, or even the women that Charles had been engaged to and married to and involved with early on. And Charles Brandon had a lot of really iffy involvements where, like, he married, somebody's going to tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, I'm sure. There was a woman that he was going to marry, but then he decided not to in order to marry that woman's mother who had more money, or it was the other way around. Either way, he had some very, very iffy, sketchy, romantic dealings in the early part of the 16th century. There was also rumors about him at the court of Margaret of Austria, which has made its way into several historical fiction books as well, that they had like a little fling going on when Anne Boleyn was there as a young child. So Charles Brandon had a very kind of, shall we say, tumultuous relationship history. But he seemed, maybe it was his older age, he seemed to settle in with Katherine, and they really seemed to have an interesting partnership and mutual respect with each other, which, given the age difference, which is gross for us, and even for the time, it was unusual, but it wasn't unheard of for the time. So we kind of need to remember that as well. And together, they actually managed to maintain their favor with Henry VIII. Charles Brandon was like the only person who could talk to Henry VIII and be honest with him and who would keep his head, right? So that's how we remember him today. And Katherine Willoughby was similar. She maintained her favor with Henry VIII, even despite some challenges, especially once she was friends with Katherine Parr. So Katherine Parr did become Henry VIII's sixth wife in 1543. Both women shared a strong commitment to the Protestant faith and quickly became allies in religious reform that was sweeping through England. Their bond was strengthened by their shared experiences and mutual support. Katherine Parr had been a widow by that point, not a widower, had been a widow by that point, and, was kind of going into this marriage with Henry. And she and Katherine Willoughby really found support with each other. Now, Katherine Parr's influence on the king was instrumental in protecting many reformers from persecution. This is the period after Cromwell had been executed. And, in this kind of seesaw of back and forth, Gardiner and the Catholic factions were on the rise again and were getting more powerful without Cromwell and the Protestant factions there to kind of stop him. And so Katherine Parr really provided a moderating influence on Henry to protect some of the reformers at court from persecution. The two women created a network of like-minded people at court advocating for religious reform and supporting each other. The friendship was not just a personal connection, but also a strategic alliance that helped them to navigate the dangerous waters of Henry VIII's court. You guys, I'm having a really hard time talking today. I was in Winnipeg earlier this week at the Canadian Health Library Association meeting. Many of you know my other work that I do is with libraries and library vendors and organizations that support libraries. So I was at this health library conference in Winnipeg, and it messed with my body clock so much. I left my house on Tuesday morning at 2 a.m. to get a really super early flight, because Winnipeg, if you live in Winnipeg, it's very, very difficult to get to your city. I will tell you that. The flights are not great. And then last night, I finally got home at 1:45 in the morning. So I'm like having a really hard time talking today. So please forgive me. Anyway, that was my little sidebar. Let's go back to Katherine Willoughby. So Henry's temper and political maneuvers would often pose threats to their safety. Of course, as we know, with what almost happened with Katherine Parr, where she was almost arrested and possibly persecuted as a heretic, the two Catherines would stand by each other, would look out for each other. Katherine Willoughby is one of the people who warned Katherine Parr that she was in danger. Their shared commitment to their faith and to each other provided a source of strength and stability in a very highly volatile environment. And this alliance was critical during the turbulent final years of Henry's reign. As the king's health was declining, he was in a really bad mood, and all of the different political factions were vying for power. Just a quick pause here to tell you that TudorCon online tickets are available now. TudorCon, of course, is 3 days of Tudor learning, merriment, fun. It takes place in Richmond, Virginia every September. We've sold out of our tickets, unfortunately, but you can still come online through the magic of the internet. So we have this amazing streaming ticket. There's extra talks just for streaming people, entertainment that's just for streaming people. It's going to be so much fun. So englandcast.com/TudorCon online to learn all about the TudorCon streaming experience. So Charles Brandon died in 1545, and Katherine became a prominent widow at court. She was now free of her husband's presence. She used her status and her considerable wealth as a widow to support the Protestant cause, and her home became a sanctuary for reformers and scholars, a hub of intellectual and religious activity. Her patronage extended to many of the leading figures of the Reformation. She provided financial support, shelter, and a platform to those who were advocating for religious change. People like John Foxe, in his Acts and Monuments, celebrated her contributions to the Reformed faith. Foxe's work, of course, chronicled the sufferings of Protestant martyrs, and he highlighted Catherine's pivotal role in the Protestant movement in England. So now Katherine was no longer just the wife of a powerful man herself. She was a formidable person in her own right. Her advocacy for religious reform and her support for the Protestant cause helped shape the religious landscape of England. There were setbacks and struggles as well. For example, when Anne Askew was put to death, the whole plot around her, which many people see as a potential plot against Katherine Parr, against the Queen, because there were some links between Anne Askew and Katherine Parr running in the same Protestant circles. So they thought that they could get to Anne Askew and get Katherine Parr that way. Katherine Willoughby also would have been in danger at that point. But Anne Askew never gave either of their names, and they were able to come through that unscathed. So under Edward VI, she would have been fine, because Edward was a super strong Protestant, kept going with the Reformation, even took the Reformation to a whole new level. But then he dies, and we get Mary I, who is, of course, a very strong Catholic, which put Catherine's life in immediate danger in 1553. She was famous for her outspoken Protestant beliefs and her influential position. She actually I forgot to say this early on, talking about Stephen Gardiner in the 1540s at the Tudor court. Katherine Willoughby actually had a dog that she called Gardiner, named after Stephen Gardiner, and she apparently really liked to give it orders and say she was giving Gardiner orders. So that's the kind of funny humor and person that she was. So she was really well known as being someone who had these Protestant beliefs. So she knew that she herself and her family were in great danger. And so they fled. At that point, she had remarried. She remarried for love as well. Richard Bertie, who was her second husband, he had been part of her staff. It's a very similar story to Owen Tudor marrying Catherine Valois. He had been a part of her staff. Apparently, she trusted him because he had been her gentleman usher. So that was the role that he had, and they fell in love and they got married for love. It was a love match. Yay, love. Yay, love. Anyway, they went into exile. Oh, look, it made hearts. I love modern technology. I'm going to do that again. Need more coffee. They went into exile and they fled to Poland, Catherine and her husband, Richard. They found refuge in Poland under the protection of King Sigismund II, who offered them safety and support during their exile. One of the things that might have made it easier for them to go into exile was Catherine lost both of her sons during the sweating sickness that broke out in 1551. So they were students in Cambridge. The sweating sickness broke out in Cambridge, and apparently she first said that her sons and their cousin should go to Kingston, which was several miles away from St. John's College where they were studying. But then George Stanley died, and Catherine had her sons moved to Buckton, a little bit further away. And then sadly, on the same day, on the 14th of July, 1551, both Henry and Charles Brandon died of the sweating sickness within half an hour of each other. It's very, very sad. One of their tutors had written, they both together were in one house, lodged in two separate chambers, and almost at one time both sickened and both departed. They both died dukes, both well learned, both wise, and both right godly. So that was quite tragic, and it might have made it easier for Catherine to leave than when she had to go into exile, knowing that she wasn't leaving her children. There wasn't, I can't even imagine. It's what's the whole point of life then, right? So, all right, we'll go to Poland, whatever. So that was the biggest tragedy of her life. Life in exile was challenging, of course. We can't even imagine what it would have been like to just leave everything and go to a foreign country. But Catherine was resilient. She remained committed to her Protestant faith. She continued to support and inspire the reformist cause from abroad. The couple wound up living in various parts of Europe. They maintained their religious practices, and they stayed connected with the Protestant network at that point. So then Mary I dies, and that's the end of their exile, and Elizabeth I is queen, and she's a Protestant, and Catherine and her family are able to come back to England. Once she came back to England, she resumed her support for Protestant causes, and she was actually quite disappointed that the Elizabethan settlement, I've talked before about how the Elizabethan settlement was kind of like the perfect compromise because neither side was particularly happy with it. She was very disappointed that it didn't go far enough in its Protestantism. She wanted it to go further towards the Puritan side, and it did not. But she was still a respected figure, kind of advocating for more religious reform. She died in 1580. She left behind a legacy of courage, resilience, and unwavering commitment to her beliefs. And her story is a powerful example of how one woman navigated the treacherous waters of Tudor politics and religion, standing firm in her convictions and making a lasting impact on history. All right, tell me what you thought about Katherine Willoughby. What do you think about her? Is she inspiring? Does she make you want to get up and follow your own dreams and your own beliefs even more? Tell me in the comments what you think about Katherine Willoughby. If you made it to the end of this video and you're still here with me, thank you very much. And I sure would appreciate a press of that like button. It helps to feed the algorithm and show YouTube that people are enjoying this video and then show it to more people. And why not subscribe while you're at it if you're not already, so that you never miss the videos like this that I put out. Sometimes I'm more awake, sometimes I'm not. It is what it is. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you are deeply loved. I'm so glad that I share the planet with you. Honestly, you are an amazing person. You are one of a kind, and I am glad that you're here with me today on this planet. Thank you for being here. I will talk to you again soon. Be sure to drink your water. It's a hot one out there. All right. Bye-bye, my friends.